Alright, before we begin this week's episode, I've got a couple things I want to talk about. First off, I'm sorry for the radio silence the past 5 days or so. My computer's actually been in the shop for almost a week now, so I've just been sitting at home playing Monster Hunter, like writing scripts out on pieces of paper, just slowly getting angrier because I couldn't get any work done. Maybe that's anger born out of sadness, though. And that's the second thing I gotta talk about this week, is that if you watched the last episode, you know that this rant was supposed to be about the things the gaming community is doing wrong, and the thing is, somebody really close to me has passed away recently, and that video has got, I guess, strong opinions would be the right word for it. It's born out of a place of a lot of frustration, a lot of hard feelings, and it's not something that's going to make a lot of people happy, and I don't have the heart to put that out there right now, so I'd like to focus on something that's a bit more constructive, positive, remind us all that despite all of the things we think may be going wrong out there, maybe it's not so bad being a part of the game community after all, so hopefully you enjoy watching this brief diversion, if you will, just as much as I had writing it. I hope it brightens up your day just a little bit, so enjoy.
I'm gonna drop a phrase on you. This phrase is going to seem tripe, overblown, and easy to shrug off, but I mean it when I say that this is one of the most important aspects of our industry right now, and it will continue to be so well into the future. Video games are changing. They're morphing into something foreign yet familiar at the same time. Something bigger, better, and more ambitious. Something that will catapult the types of experiences we can expect to play through in the foreseeable future into realms you and I can't even imagine right now, because there's simply never been anything like them before. And the funny thing is, most of us won't even notice it, because it's a natural progression for a budding artistic medium like ours. So what's happening to our games? What does it mean, and why should we care? Well, first off, one of the biggest contributors to this change is the standardization of game development as a learnable field in most universities. By making video games a part of accepted general curriculum, it allows tons of young minds to meet other creative individuals, experiment with all kinds of wacky ideas too risky to try in the mainstream market, and most importantly, gather research and data on these experiments in an environment that's relatively safe and cost-free. That's big. Sure, a lot of them might invoke the same reaction in people that art house films tend to, but once in a while, we'll get something that'll come out of a first-year class and collectively blow our minds. And what's more, the feedback from those successes or failures will put those students at an enormous advantage after they graduate and start developing in earnest. The second major event that's changing the game is the rise of the indies. Independent game development has become a more and more powerful field every year, owing in no small part to the fact that there are both tons of ultra-powerful engines and tool sets out there available for anyone of any skill level to pick up for free and start making their dreams come true. And the methods available to those creators to learn how to best use those resources are also more plentiful than ever. If you're not satisfied with the hundreds of video tutorials out there detailing everything from rigging to camera control, there are sites like Stack Exchange full of people who are glad to help if you have any questions. Look at games like The Legend of Grimrock. I'm willing to bet you cash money that if you had pitched the idea of an ultra-hard first-person roguelike in a fantasy setting with a heavy emphasis on puzzle solving to any major developer back when this game came out, they would have laughed you out of the building. And yet, it not only sold, it got enough traction to make an even more fantastic sequel a year or two later. This is the power of indies. They can step into those gaping genre holes that the big names have long since left behind because they're too busy lamenting the fact that their last game didn't sell the 5 million units it needed to break even, and through the revolutionary new technology called budgeting, create products that eat the AAA world's frigging lunch. And that's not to say AAA developers are totally dropping the ball either. Look at a game like Xenoblade Chronicles. I wrote an entire article on Screw Attack not 2 days ago talking about how streamlined and optimized everything in that game is. It trims the fat and puts the player's convenience first in many areas most of us would have never even thought had flaws at all, and thus stands out as one of the best JRPGs made in a long, long time. It innovated and improved on a formula we all would have been perfectly happy with them leaving well enough alone, but because they didn't, their work is now nothing short of legendary, and the sequel is looking even slicker. Even the crotchety old men at Nintendo are starting to realize the value of changing things up, and opening their doors to developers new and old with ideas that could very well become phenomenon like a Five Nights or a Minecraft before them. Look, it's really easy to lose faith in this industry sometimes, I will fully admit that. To get caught up on the Assassin's Creed Unity launch, the Nintendo Creators Program, or games like Colonial Marines or Ride to Hell and think, where did we all go so wrong? It's really easy to just lay back one day and go, you know what, screw it all. Hype is a poison and jaded apathy is the only anti-venom. But then a game like Pregnancy launches on Steam, and you realize that we've reached the point where we can finally tackle subjects like this and be taken seriously for it. Then something like the formation of Platonic Games happens, and your mind starts spinning with possibilities and nostalgic glee. And then you realize that the Hat in Time beta begins in 2 days from when this video will be posted, and that's when you realize there is a reason to be excited. There is a reason this industry is worth being a part of. Because Big Lands exists, because Mighty No. 9 exists, because Life is Strange exists, and because of all the reasons I've mentioned already, who knows what else is coming down the pipeline. And that's probably the most important thing that's changing. Us. Those wide-eyed little children whose minds were blown the first time they saw polygons in Star Fox, or whose worlds were changed by characters like Jazz Jackrabbit or Duke Nukem, are now adults. Some of us are YouTubers and tastemakers, driving sales and attention like no marketing campaign ever could. Some of us are businessmen and investors who realize the value of the medium and how best to utilize it in a world constantly craving new ways to entertain itself. And yet some of us still have decided nothing would make them happier than to fill the world with the kinds of games they would want to play. To make games like This War of Mine or Imagination is the Only Escape, and push the boundaries of what types of experiences this medium can deliver. Video games are changing, yes, but when the smoke clears and we step into the brave new world forged by these events, this industry is going to be even more awesome than ever.
And of course all of this is coming from somebody who's currently making a retro 2D space shooter. Way to push the boundaries there, friend.